So it looks like Germany had a disappointing start to this year's Euros.
And what a game it was. And it got us here at Inner Drive thinking, how can players and teams get over that initial disappointment of their opening fixture and still go on to have a successful tournament?
I'm Matt Shaw.
I'm Bradley Busch.
And this is a Sports Psychologist Breakdown.
There are loads of famous examples of teams having a disappointment in their first match and going on to do really well. One such example that instantly springs to mind would probably be Spain in the 2010 World Cup, where they famously lost 1-0 to Switzerland in their opening game, and yet still went on to top their group and indeed win the whole thing. So, if this happens to you, what 5 things can you do? Number 1, we think a really good tip is to remember that confidence is key, and you can use time really effectively for this. So if you think of time in terms of the past, the present and the future, you can use the past to boost your confidence by remembering your best bits and your best performances. You can use the present to focus on what you need to do right now in order to improve. And you can use the future by visualizing and imagining yourself doing well, as this will really boost players' performance and confidence.
So top tip number 2 then, and this one's all about embracing uncertainty. Because particularly when a team loses early in a tournament, there's tons of uncertainty around them and loads of questions that get asked. So for example, are they really good enough? Can they go all the way? Or are the players as good as we thought they would be? And focusing on this can stress the team and the players out. So instead of focusing on all those questions, what we'd really ask our players to do is make sure they're focusing on the stuff that they can do, the stuff that they can actually change and have control over, like their performance and like their attitude. I'd also teach most of my players that this stuff's likely to happen anyway, so some level of acceptance is really important too.
As mentioned earlier, failure at some stage is probably inevitable, and that means those who can fail better tend to do well, and that's what tip number 3 is all about. So how do we help our players fail better? I think it's really important to know that failures can help people learn, they can help people improve, and if we learn the lesson from them, can really help motivate people. So it's not a case of avoiding failure at all costs, but using it as best as possible when it happens.
So top tip number 4 is all about questioning fears and challenging unhelpful beliefs. And this is because, particularly after a loss early on, some players might have loads of unhelpful thoughts and loads of fears about what's going to happen next and what that might mean for their performance. So what I'd always teach my athletes is to ask themselves a really simple question. Is what I'm thinking fact or is it feeling? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not true. However, most of the time it's actually feeling, and we can work on those feelings together.
Tip number 5 is all about feedback, because with failure often brings the opportunity to learn and improve. So feedback is so important. And this means for coaches, they need to become skilled at the art of giving feedback, and for players, they need to become skilled at the art of receiving it and not getting too emotional and defensive when it happens. Feedback is an opportunity to learn and improve. It isn't a judgment on who you are as a person. And when we view feedback as this two-way street, it can really help improve performance after failures. So there you have it. All the evidence shows that failure doesn't have to be fatal. Players and teams can, and indeed do, go on after an initial disappointment to have really successful tournaments. And this reminds me of one of my favourite quotes from legendary basketball player Michael Jordan. He says he has missed over 9,000 shots. 300 times he's been on the losing side, and 26 times he has personally taken the match-winning shot and lost. And he says he has failed over and over again, but that's why he succeeds. And I think that is a great message to leave our players with.
So let us know what you think. If you have any questions, get in the comments and we'll do our best to get round to them. If you found this helpful, then make sure you like the video. And of course, make sure that you subscribe for more sports psychology breakdowns.